Combat Vet Vision. And now your host, Aaron Chief Seaver.
Like the sun bidding goodbyes. Hey, welcome to Combat Vet Vision. It's great to have you. This is a show where I get to talk about my combat experience, my combat life, as well as bringing on our sponsors, supporters, volunteers, other combat vets to tell their story. And today we're going to talk about the STIM device. The Alpha-Stim device. We're going to talk about some incredible things. And it's 9/11 today. 9/11, was the unfortunate battle cry that brought us to having more combat vets in our society and guys that are dealing with a lot of things. And we're we're at more losses to suicide and issues now than what we lost in the battlefield in Afghanistan or Iraq. So, and the Twin Towers fell today. A lot of other things happened. So it's a somber time, a time where, hopefully I remember bringing our country to a lot of really cool togetherness on top of it all. So it's a somber day, but at the same time, there's a lot of really cool things to talk about. And I think this is a really big issue, medications and all the different things that are going on with that. What can we do to reduce it? And I'm really glad that I got Raoul Piette on deck. Raoul, welcome to the show. Thanks for being here, brother.
Hey, Aaron, good to see you once again, my man. And I say happy 9/11, but it's more of a day of remembrance than anything.
Yeah, it definitely is. It's never really going to be a happy day, but it's definitely going to be a day of remembrance. And there's so many things that happened in World War II that we can only remember it because of its historical value. On 9/11, a lot of us have the history of that moment, and I think that's a huge impact. I remember hearing about the Twin Towers. It was like some news report, and I was working actually on helping my air conditioner get the fins straight again. And I remember my ex-wife saying, "Hey, there's the Twin Towers are getting hit," and I'm like, "The Twin Towers where? Because how can it, how can you believe that something's happening in America on that scale?" And it took me, a few minutes to actually figure out that the damage is being done, and America's soil is bled, and so, which obviously continued, and we're in the 20 years of combat at this point. So, yeah, 20 years ago.
I remember getting ready that morning, and I had small children. We were just embarking on a family back then, and I remember thinking to myself, the world will never be the same.
And it really hasn't. It really hasn't. A lot of things have happened since then. And Raoul, and what's cool, thanks for being here on the show. Thanks for Raoul has came to the Warrior Built facility, and I talk about the Warrior Built Foundation and the PTSD Foundation of America, the combat vet support that is out there. But it's more than that. We're helping out veterans in a lot of different directions. We're helping out civilians in a lot of ways. I just took a call this morning from a gal that's really dealing with some PTSD and looking for some answers, looking for some help with it developing and within herself. And Raoul came to the shop, and he's been talking to me on and off. We're also part of some support in the veteran community all around Southern California, and Raoul does a lot with this with the Alpha-Stim. And the Alpha-Stim is really an incredible device to hopefully reduce pain without the medication use. It's a device that hooks to the earlobes and causes some relaxation, some incredible things. He brought it to the shop, let a couple guys check it out, and obviously affected them in some really positive ways. But we look forward to trying it out some more. And you have a definite pathway to getting this device through, medical insurance, to TRICARE, to the VA. And so, Raoul, tell a little bit about your story, man, and we'll get into this whole Alpha-Stim, and love that you're here. Love that you're going to share that, because medication is a huge problem for sure. But tell a little bit about your story, brother.
Well, my dad was 517th Military Intelligence in post-war Berlin. He was actually an interrogator who, well, you know what they do. Anyway, we came back to the States and have enjoyed a nice life here in the States. But he had a long-running issue with sleep apnea, the folks who can't sleep overnight, right? And I, having gone to school in a realm of marketing, had found myself in a position where I was overseeing 5 sleep apnea labs. And people coming into a sleep apnea lab to try a medical device in their mouth to move their jaws such that their airway stays open at night, right? And get better oxygenation overnight. If they don't oxygenate, their body doesn't heal, right? Well, we're looking at doing that, but these people had so many other issues going on. How are we going to wire them up, put a mouthpiece in their mouth, and then make them sleep in a lab when they already have anxiety, depression, insomnia, and various aches and pains? Now we're going to do this. Well, the doctors came to me and said, hey, we'd like to bring in this medical device. It's called Alpha-Stim. And I'm like, what? And they're like, alpha is short for alpha positive brain waves, and stim is stimulation. It's going to use a minimal amount of electric current into their head. And I mean minimal, less than a heartbeat, but it's in a patented waveform. It's been around for a long time. It's proven technology. It's FDA clear. I didn't care about all those details. I'm like, hey, you guys are the doctors. You think it's going to work? Let's bring it in. Well, we brought it in, and the end result is it helped us achieve results, and actually positive results in our clinical trial environment. Now I go back to do the roundtable briefing with the doctors and go over the results. While I'm sitting at the roundtable, all the doctors are wearing the Alpha-Stims. I'm like, what are you guys doing? And they're like, well, I get more done. Yeah, I'm in my Zen spot. Yeah, I feel more focused. And I'm like, give me that dang thing. I was the one responsible for bringing these in. So I put it on during the meeting, which took about an hour. I set it too high. I used it wrong, right? Because I didn't know. There's really only a couple buttons on it, but I didn't know what I was doing anyway. And I tossed the thing aside, thinking nothing of it, right? The next day, my Fitbit was telling me that I had achieved REM sleep overnight, which is a big issue for me because of my bad shoulders. I toss and turn every 15 minutes or so because I can't sleep in one spot too long. I don't wake myself. I don't even know that I do it, right? If I wasn't married, I probably never would have known I do it all night long, but I do it all night long. So because I never get the REM sleep, I end up being groggy or a little bit sleepier than I should be during the day, right? Well, I just wrote that off. I thought for a second, well, they did say something about that Alpha-Stim addressing general pain, but it couldn't have been that. Then during that day, I was going through my emails, and I was doing the emails that I hate, the kinds where I got to get up from the desk, go pull an insurance form, go look something up, not just easy ones to reply. And I was like on number 10 of those. And I was like, wait a minute, am I more focused? Nah, it can't be that Alpha-Stim. All right. Then I went and played tennis that night. Now I'm an old guy now. I was 58 then. I'm now 61. Right. And I play for a couple hours. By the time I drive home, the 15 minutes, my body has seized up. And I walk over to hang up my keys like I'm 95. And I got out of the car, strode over to hang up. And I'm like, wait a minute. No way. I used that Alpha-Stim a day ago. It can't still be affecting me. Right. So I ended up checking one out for myself and did the little bit of research it took to figure out. Actually, I watched some YouTube videos on it and figured out how to utilize the thing. And I started using the Alpha-Stim. Over the course of time, it wasn't just the physical aspects of Alpha-Stim that got addressed. It's supposed to address just about everything we talked about those people have in the sleep lab. Anxiety, insomnia, pain, and other related issues. Alpha-Stim is FDA cleared for these things. And sure enough, over the course of time, personal aspects about myself ended up being revealed to myself. Not like I hadn't been searching for my own answers, but I think I just do it. I was doing a life pattern for me is that I'm always busy. And if I'm always busy, I never stop to look. And this stilled me long enough to see the damn wall. It was in the room of my life, stopping me from moving forward. Right. And I was able, to make the longer story shorter, to realize what I had long thought was just like, oh, pre-game jitters, like getting ready for a high school football game, or somebody had challenged me to a fight, that feeling of butterflies, right? Well, that's not really normal, but I'm a guy. Who am I going to talk to about this? I don't, right? It turns out I had been having panic attacks for quite some period of time, right? And those panic attacks were related to a lot of things that we all had happen over the course of our lives. Some of them in active military service, some of them not, some of them from childhood. I don't care where they come from. But what this Alpha-Stim does is it resets neural receptors within the brain, affecting the vagal nerve and the temporal lobe in front, which lets those happy thoughts, the alpha waves and the serotonin, get flowing again, right? And basically erases the chalkboard of all those crazy thoughts that you're having. Well, it turns out while it's erasing the crazy thoughts, it also erases the pain patterns, because your body knows how to send the signal from your bad shoulder to your brain, right? And back and forth. So, and I say to people, some pain starts in the body, some pain starts in the brain, and it ends up manifesting itself out and generates its own medical conditions, right? And this Alpha-Stim, and there's two models. There's the basic one, I'm wearing it now. It's just this little thing that looks like an old-fashioned BlackBerry, I thought, and I hang it around my neck for about 20 minutes a day, put on the ear clips and go about my whatever, like I'm talking to you right now, right? And then there's the upgraded one that comes with a couple of wands with it, or probes or patches, that I can actually treat a knee, treat a palm, treat a foot, treat whatever. That process is pretty quick, but I always finish it up with treating the brain. Because remember, some pain's going from the knee to the brain, some pain's going from the head to the knee, right? And I'm going to take care of it at both locations. People say to me, is this thing like a TEMS device? I've tried one of those. And I'm like, oh, you mean that one that hits you so hard it like makes your arm jerk? I'm like, that's more like a sledgehammer. That comes in and whacks the pain out of there, right? It deadens it. But over the course of time, your body figures out how to get the signal around that. This Alpha-Stim is more cumulative, meaning when I'm using it, I tend to forget to use it because I'm feeling good. I don't have my anxiety in the morning that gets me up and pacing the halls trying to figure out, with my brain's running too fast, how to get a lot of things done. I got to do this, I'm going to do that, I'm going to go, got to hang that, I got to do this. Then I put that Alpha-Stim on and say, why don't I quit thinking about everything I got to do and just get focused, right? And then I'm able to draw in on something and actually take on that task and cross something off of my to-do list instead of just adding to it nonstop, right? The Alpha-Stim is now, I'm like, I just read somewhere that we passed over 1 million users. And I'm like, why is it that it's still so unheard of, even though the FDA, has approved it, and the VA is our biggest client. We are in the VA guidelines. So veterans can get this through their primary healthcare provider, right? Who's going to send them over to the pain clinic or PM&R, and they're going to do a couple of tests. But I don't know if other people have experienced this. There's often turnover within the VA. And someone who knew what was going on with Alpha-Stim, was trained 6 months ago, may have went to a different department or found a job in the private sector or moved to a different, I don't know, right? But now we're back to ground zero again. So they have people placed across the nation now for Alpha-Stim, like myself here in Southern California, where our job is to make sure we help facilitate people and get them the information that they could share with their primary care provider, to explain to them here's the codes and here's the steps and here's the process to help your veteran give this a try and see if this is something that can work for them. And the end result is hopefully what Dr. Josh Briley found working at a community-based outpatient clinic in Central Texas. He had been with the VA there for 8 years before one of his patients brought Alpha-Stim to him. He tried it on his patients, then tried it on more. The end result, he ended up prescribing in 2 years over 1,200 Alpha-Stims at one VA. And they were able at that particular VA to document a lowering in suicidal ideations, which means people thinking about killing themselves, right? And a lowering in mental health crisis admissions to the hospital. They actually were able to show that on paper. These numbers have gone down, and the only thing that we've done differently is give everybody these damn Alpha-Stims. I still look at it and say, how the hell does it work? Then again, I don't know how the pharmaceuticals work either, right? I just know that the end result is I can take somebody who's having a panic attack and wash that away. I was at the VA in Long Beach in one of the break rooms, helping a vet who had broken his ear clip because he wears it to fall asleep at night. He's got insomnia really bad, right? Hadn't slept in a day and a half. I brought him his new clips. He clipped up there in the break room while I was explaining to a nurse who was saying, what do you got there? Right? While I was explaining to her this same kind of stuff, he fell asleep at the table. I'm like, wow, score one for Alpha-Stim. There's something going on here that, I don't understand, but as I said, it quelled the speed with which his brain was moving, put him in a calm state. And when he achieved that, sleep was a given. His body was ready for it. Right. When I put it on.
Raoul,
yeah.
Raoul, hold on to these thoughts. I want to come back to it, but we're just going to do a PSA real quick. And then I definitely want you to talk about, how we're going to get these to the veterans. I know you have a very simple, easy way to do that. If someone wants to get a hold of you, that's definitely an awesome deal. And, if civilians also want to utilize this, what's their insurance repercussions and how do they go about to do that as well? So we'll come back. If there's a PSA, Brian, if you're here, throw the PSA out there, brother.
Hi, I'm Mike Richmond of the U.S. Department of Veterans Affairs with this message for veterans. Are you a veteran with a VA service-connected disability? Would you like to go on a hiking expedition and build camaraderie with other veterans who are facing similar mental health challenges? No Barriers Warriors organizes these hikes through the breathtaking mountains in western North Carolina. No Barriers helps veterans redefine their identity and purpose as they face past and present challenges. Their programs allow veterans to overcome physical and emotional boundaries, push through adversity, and step up to serve others. Their hiking experiences have changed thousands of lives for the better. No Barriers will soon be taking applications for its 2023 North Carolina expeditions. Email Marlene at nobarriersusa.org. That's Marlene at nobarriersusa.org. I'm Mike Richmond.
Hey, thanks to the VA for selecting my show to actually run their PSAs on, along with the Field Ops show, another good buddy of mine that runs that podcast, and Sitch Radio for putting this whole thing together. This is Sitch Radio's show, Combat Vet Vision, and we're here with Raoul talking about the Alpha-Stim and doing some incredible things. I'm just fortunate enough to just be able to pass on some really good information that hopefully helps out our combat vets, civilians, whatever it is, but mainly our combat vets focus. But there's a lot of people that may listen to this show that may have dealing with PTSD, and we'll throw this out there real quick. The Alpha-Stim is not approved for PTSD, although if you look it up online, you'll see it mention PTSD, but it doesn't have that direct operational support because it didn't go through the scrutinized studies to prove that yet. But it does. If you look at what PTSD is, it's all the symptoms that are within Raoul's talking. So I'm just going to put that disclaimer out there for Raoul. So
thanks for covering for me on that, because that's exactly what I have to say. I'm like, hey, that one hasn't been cleared by the FDA. I try to explain to people, do you understand how tough it is to get something cleared that you're actually treating anxiety? How do you prove that? Right? The only way to prove that is by, patient self-reporting. And the patient self-reporting on Alpha-Stim, whether it be civilian or military, when in the categories of what we just talked about, anxiety, depression, insomnia, and pain, right? When compared to the top prescription drugs, it is either on par or better. I'm like, would you look at that? We're doing better than Zoloft. We're doing better than Vicodin. I'm like, wow.
Raoul, while you talk about these meds, I'm a big non-med guy. I really do not like taking meds. I don't like taking meds for my pain. I had to take naproxen the other day one time, and I really hate to take it. And I took only, the minimum dose, which was 250 milligrams, something like that. but these meds have a lot of side effects. And they're, you know, long-term use, you're really damaging a lot of organs. You're doing some stuff. And what are the side effects from the Alpha-Stim?
That's a good question. The side effects, the counter effects, the whatever you want to call them from Alpha-Stim are sometimes a little bit of an ear rash from wearing the pads too much on your ears, right? Outside of that, we've been around for 35 years, right? And we have nothing against us. And you would think over the 35 years there would be something. We put out a disclaimer against people who have other electronic devices installed in their bodies, and also for pregnant women. And although that nothing has ever happened, and you know that there have been people who've broken that rule and used it anyway, I tend to say that has to be out there just to protect us on a legal front, right? Such that we don't get sued by somebody who's got a pacemaker in place and says that they think it's going to interfere with that, or, you know, Lord forbid somebody has a pregnancy that doesn't come to success, right? I wouldn't want that burden upon us. So there's that. Outside of that, everybody else is free and clear to utilize. And I'll mention her, and, you know, we talk about the prescription drugs. I also talk about the non-prescribed drugs. Part of not feeling the stresses that many of us feel during the day lessened my desire to have a beer or a glass of wine or something else at the end of the day to help me unwind, because after all, I deserved it, right? And now I just don't feel compelled. I often still do, just because I want to say, God damn it, I could still have one, right? But I don't feel like, you know, having to change my mood or alter my position. I have a practitioner of a psychological therapy called EMDR, and she's one of the leading proponents of it. And she is like, this helps my patients understand, Alpha-Stim does, what normal feels like. They've been so busy going fast or going slow to try to get in the zone, and often doing one and then the other, something that makes them go fast and then go slow, going left, going right, that they have no idea where the center really exists anymore, what it feels like to just be you, right? And she said, that's what Alpha-Stim does for my patients. I can't thank her enough for, you know, offering up such clear guidance for someone like me to explain it to other people that, you know, hey, now I understand when those doctors said, I feel like I'm in my Zen spot. And I didn't know what they meant by that, but I'm more focused. I'm in my zone. I'm like, oh, I get it. I get it. All these other mental distractions that were running in my head have been lessened or taken off the blackboard, as I say. And
Yeah, and,
pain
you know,
being one of those distractions.
Definitely. And I think you brought up some really cool, valid things that kind of triggered a couple thoughts in my head. You know, even putting this on, and some of the guys at Warrior, when we had the meeting and you came up and gave them the opportunity, you know, they felt relaxed, and you had described it as, you know, it's like like having a glass of wine at the end of the day. It's going to give you this relaxed feeling. It's going to give you this euphoric effect. And if you use it too much, it could be really a little bit overstimulating in that fashion. But I think that's a really good point, because there's so many people that maybe would be, you know, hey, I don't have to have my wine. You know, maybe they still want to, and they will, but because this device here is going to make that same feeling. And I think that's really going to be an important part.
You know, I say it that way because that's exactly what happened. Is I was still having my beer at the end of the day or whatever, you know, because I was used to, and then over the course of time, I just didn't feel compelled to anymore. Right. And nights would happen where I'd go to bed and I didn't have anything to drink or anything at all. And I'd be like, well, I wasn't really even thinking about it. That's strange, because normally that would have been like one of the foremost thoughts at the end of the day.
Right.
And, you know, that's again, as I say, I tell new patients, you know, I know you're getting this to address your bad shoulder, your knee, your insomnia. Just pay attention to the other things that are going to start happening, right? You may end up in more candid conversations with other people because your anxiety is down and that natural defensiveness has been lessened. And now you're just being more your honest self, right? And people are somewhat surprised by your candor, And you're like, no, this is really me. This is what I was thinking. I'm just now sharing it. I'm not saying you're suddenly going to become a jerk and start tramping all over people. That's not, you're actually in a more calm spot, right? So it's not coming from a negative place. It's coming from a position of feeling comfortable with being more open.
Yeah. Can you talk a little bit about, headaches and what that involvement is in this? And then we got to talk about how to get one.
Okay, headaches is one of those things where you could feel it. I could clip onto people, and some people will have an instant reaction where the headache is almost dissolved immediately. Because again, often it's a temporal lobe headache, or where you're like, I got pressure in the front of my head. I feel the pain here, right? And we are, one of the things that I talk about when we turn this up a little bit too high on people, when we test them on it, we do it intentionally so that they actually can feel that something is happening, right? At first I say, okay, you're going to feel a little, maybe a tingle in the ear. Then it's going to feel like you've had a beer. But if I keep turning it up, it's going to feel like you're on a boat heading to a small island and the seas just got choppy, right? And you're going to feel uneasy. And I'm like, that's too high. You don't want to be up there in the uncomfortable level. And I do that to almost everyone just so they could say, you're right, I am feeling something. Because, I'm putting a mild electric current on the direct path from this ear to this ear. You are the circuit. The line is being complete through your head, right? If I take one clip off, the timer stops counting because the circuit is not complete. Right? You put the clip back on, the timer starts again, and the countdown begins because the circuit is back in place. So, I do that intentionally to let people know that there is something happening to them, even though it's at such a minimal level. Once you turn it down, you shouldn't really be feeling much of anything, right? Just what you'll feel on the back end. You mentioned about insurance and what have you. I mentioned the people who are veterans and can go to the VA and say, hey, I've got these conditions, and then, what they really want to treat is your pain and related conditions to pain. So, I have anxiety, I have my insomnia, my depression, whatever else. I have that over the pain that I'm feeling as well. And I think this is why you're going to be sent for trials to PM&R. I mean, you're in there to do physical rehabilitation of some kind, right? And they'll slap, even if it's just the ear clips on you, they'll do the ear clips, or they could do the one with the wands and treat your knee and then your ears. And they make you come back once, but twice, right? In order to say whether you felt something and if you think this could be beneficial to you, right? And then prosthetics gets involved at that point when they place the order through prosthetics, and the device gets sent to you. And then it's a question of guys like me or others across the nation following up to make sure that you actually get trained in what you've got, because some people forget. They can go on the website, they can read the brochures in the box, they can watch things on YouTube. There's plenty of information on how to use this device. And we even have real people who who sit at our help desks to take your phone calls, but they're working on Texas time. So, they're only there for me from about, they're there from 6 a.m. in the morning until about 3 o'clock in the afternoon for me out here in California. Right. But they're there every day, and they're backed by real doctors, and this is all they do. So, this is also like a prescription medication in that it is a prescribed medical device. Sometimes a little tweaking gets a better result. Instead of 10 more milligrams of something else, why don't we try it at this setting for a longer period of time? And let's see what your results are. And they'll help you work with your particular condition to see that you get better results. So ordering them through the VA, if we have anybody who has issues, it's more of a question of reaching out to Alpha-Stim, whether it be through our website or what have you, and say, hey, have somebody get a hold of me. I need to help a local doctor, all right? Or they're a primary medical practitioner, and we'll have a conversation with the doctor, with them, whoever we can, or even a peer support specialist to try to help them get through the system, all right? And then on the private side, there is insurance, and insurance covers a lot. A workman's comp, these ones sail through about 80% of the time without even a cough. They just, Alpha-Stim, that's cheaper, right? In England, Alpha-Stim is in the guidelines over there because it's socialized medicine, and they already figured out this is cheaper than the prescription drugs. So we're in their guidelines, right? But over here with the insurance plans, it's going to vary from insurance to insurance. Like if somebody in California comes to me and says, I've got Cal Optima, which is, the Medicare of California. It's like, no, it's not covered. But treatments by your doctor through Medicare and Medi-Cal are covered, and there are medical codes assigned to that. But then you're going to your doctor to get the treatment. You're not getting a unit given to you. You can buy one directly from Alpha-Stim, but you need a medical prescription because it is a medical device. So you go to your doctor and say, hey, I want to get an Alpha-Stim, and they write you a prescription. You send that in to Alpha-Stim, and we'll sell you the device, right? And then it's a question of insurance reimbursement. And if you've got the gold, silver, platinum plans, you're probably covered, right? You're running with the tin plan, you're probably not. You better hope for a copay. And I just got to be honest on that. I wish I could say everybody's covered, but we're not quite there yet. It's a lot better than it was a decade ago, but hey.
This is great news to know, because, I don't know the civilian side of things that well, but for you to be able to explain it in that fashion, I think it's really basic and very, very easily understandable. And you're right. You talked about how the Alpha-Stim is not really widely known, and you're making it known, obviously, in the groups that I'm in with you on, the Riverside County, San Bernardino County, and stuff like that. And obviously coming to Warrior Built and showing it to these guys, and this is really important, especially for guys going into rehab and they got to come off all these different meds, and they're like, hey, what am I going to do about my pain? What am I going to do about this? Obviously, the doctor's prescription is going to make a huge difference, and it's real simple. So I want you to be able to, reach out to Raoul, and his number and everything is in the, it'll be in the show notes. You could get a hold of him through me, but, feel free to, put any last minute stuff you want to talk about, Raoul. And if someone wants to get a hold of you, tell them how to do that, because I feel like this is probably one of the most important aspects of life, quality of life, that you're going to be able to bring with the lack of medications that are required for all the symptoms. I mean, all the problems that you mentioned within the device's capability. That's a lot of medications. That's a lot of medications if you need to fix all those symptoms. So one device, 20 minutes a day.
Yeah, I've seen people with 13, different medications get down to 2, where one of the 2 has to do with their thyroid, and I'm sorry, I don't help that, right? So, and then again, I always like to, precaution people that, if you're going to your primary care provider or your mental health practitioner and saying, hey, I want to step off of my medications, they're going to be real hesitant to have you do that, right? So you're going to need to let them know that that you have this Alpha-Stim. If you are looking to get one in private practice, there is a document called a Statement of Medical Necessity, right? Medical necessity, because your insurance provider wants to see that your doctor says, no, this is a necessity, right? He needs an Alpha-Stim, because I don't want him taking so much of these prescription drugs anymore. It's not beneficial, right? He's having side effects or what have you. We're going to be doing this treatment where there are no documented side effects outside of, as I say, ear rash, or maybe, somebody who might say they have a headache or something, but I don't even encounter that yet. But, outside of that, I'm looking forward to helping anyone. And I say the easiest way is, if you can't see the information at the bottom, right, would be to remember it's Alpha-Stim. Stim is short for stimulation. So it's not stem like root stem. It's stim, short for stimulation. So alpha, positive brain waves, and stim. Look that up online, and you'll hit our website and ask for some help. All right. And as I say, we've got live people there all day. And what are they going to do? They're going to farm it out to me if I'm the guy in the area to help you, or they're going to send it to the guy who handles Medford, Oregon, or Schenectady. They don't care, right? They just want to put you in contact. And we are, what is there, like 100? I think there's 110 VA hospitals, and I think we're in the high 90s for the number of VA hospitals that are actively utilizing Alpha-Stim. So chances are the program is already in place at your local VA, and they just don't know. I've got many people who come to me through one of the outpatient clinics, right? And the outpatient clinic may know or may not, right? I mean, they're out there in the middle of nowhere. I mean, out in Barstow versus down in Loma Linda, they don't know very much out there. But I just helped somebody the other day who had a vet who was at the health fair in Beaumont for veterans, took our information back to their doctor at the CBOC in Barstow who called me. Right? Said, hey, I got your information. How do I get this done? And I explained to her that she needs to just take that patient and send them in, to run through the clinical trial and have it stamped off that they did that once or twice, because we know everything's got to follow a procedure, right? And unless they could check those boxes, when the order goes into prosthetics is going to look at it and say, wait a minute, Barstow's not allowed to order direct. It has to come into us through PM&R, right? So they're expecting a pathway there so that they can check their boxes as well. And if people miss those boxes, then, we're trying to help from this end, do whatever we can do so that we get the good results.
Well, great stuff, Raoul. I mean, you're probably the best drug rep that I've ever had. FDA approved. And that's the cool thing. The
because
FDA
it works for me so damn well, Larry. I mean, I'm like, I get emotional because it was life changing for me. My whole life, I'm trying to move forward, and I keep short circuiting myself, and I couldn't figure out what the hell's going on.
Hey, yeah, I think this is the greatest laugh I've had on this show, but it's funny that I even have to call you that. But the FDA approved this device, and it's one of a few electrical devices that's actually approved by the FDA. And there's some other ones getting through there, but I'm telling you that the real drug companies do not want this out. You want to know why it's not very broadly spoken about, because there's no money in it after you sell it, really. I mean, it's an unfortunate and fortunate thing.
No, there's no, yeah. I've had mine for, over 3 years now, and I've, there's no additional cost. I haven't run out of the supplies that it initially came with. I've had it for 3 years. Right?
Amazing.
So at some point, I'm going to have to order some more solution to wet the ear pads or the little foamy things that go on the ear pads, right? But I'm like, I'm 3 years in. I think I can afford to spend the $20 or $40 and restock. So
that's good stuff. Hey, Raoul, I'd like to have you on the show again in the future, to talk about this again to those that may have missed it, or just some refreshing things about
Aaron, and we've got your ankle that I want to treat. And, we want to get after your ankle as well. We helped those, other guys when I was down there last time, but theirs were more issues of the mind. Right.
Right.
And I want to show, hey, this is how it works on the physical pain. Right. Because, that's something where you can, I've had people at pain level 9.5 with that within 15 minutes, they're saying, no, it's about 3.5. And I'm like, 3.5, let's hit it again and see if we can't get that number lower.
Right on. So, no, I look forward to getting one of these and going through the process. And when I get back, I'll make that happen. Stick around for after the show. We'll talk. But is there any last thing, anything else you want to say, or if someone wants to get hold of you?
I think you've given me a great amount of time. In fact, we felt I was doing a soliloquy here.
Well, thanks, Raoul. I appreciate you. Much love. Hey, this is a show that kind of, it brings out some different things. It's there to educate the public. It's there to help the combat vet that's dealing with exactly this situation. It's there to help the veteran. It's there to help the family out, whatever it is that's going on. And, this show ends up being an amazing thing. Thanks to Sitch Radio for producing it. And Brian Colburn, thanks a lot, brother. This is Aaron Siebert, retired Navy Chief, signing off. Strength and honor out.
The only way, like the sun bidding goodbye, the only way, and we need nothing